Where's Convex?
Oh, setting up his trade show. Got to introduce the spring line.
What's in the box?
Your head. Got your head in this box. You've been busy, Max. Been reading about you in the papers. Have you been to see Bianca Oblivion?
I saw her.
And she give you any trouble?
No.
No.
David Cronenberg's Videodrome slithered onto screens like a technological virus from the future. Merging science fiction with body horror, this unsettling film wraps us in a suffocating embrace of bad television, lurid pornography, and mind control conspiracies. Initially a commercial failure, Videodrome slowly cemented itself as an innovative and visionary cult classic over the decades since its release. The film follows Max Wren, the seedy CEO of a UHF station who happens upon a bizarre television signal. What starts as scrambled images of torture porn quickly evolves into a highly addictive and disturbing new reality. As the signal's otherworldly effects take hold, Max undergoes a grotesque transformation. His body develops a pulsating VCR slot in his stomach. His hallucinations of the program become disturbingly real, as he is slowly absorbed into the sinister agenda of Videodrome's controllers. On its surface, Videodrome presents a nightmarish and surreal vision of humanity's consumption of violence and depravity through mass media. Yet, it is rooted in Cronenberg's deeper philosophies about the inescapable intertwining of technology and the human body in the modern age. Like his earlier body horror classics, Shivers, Rabid, The Brood, and Scanners, Videodrome represents Cronenberg's long-standing exploration of how technological forces reshape and distort the human form and psyche. Despite a tight budget, Rick Baker's practical effects, from grotesque makeup to the animated breathing of television sets, deepen the film's unsettling atmosphere and emphasize its critique of mass media. Similarly, James Woods is magnetic as the tragic protagonist, tormented by his own morbid curiosities, while Debbie Harry shines as the dangerously alluring radio host caught up in the deadly broadcast. The film's feverish descent into an inescapable media-driven hell feels even more prescient today, given our oversaturated digital culture. Since its release, Videodrome has been reclaimed as one of Cronenberg's greatest and most influential works of body horror. Its shocking visuals and uncompromising vision have earned critical admiration, with outlets like Bloody Disgusting and Empire lauding it as a startlingly ahead-of-its-time masterpiece. Like the signal it depicts, the film itself has replicated and mutated into the collective mind, creating an enduring cult around its disquieting yet visionary perspective on society's relationship with increasingly invasive media.
Let's go, Lloyd. We gotta get going. They found the Ferrari. Brought you some Alka-Seltzer. It's Alka-Seltzer. You put it in the water and you drink it.
Directed by Jack Shoulder, The Hidden melds science fiction and horror into a high-stakes thriller unfolding on the gritty streets of Los Angeles. At first glance, the film might appear to be a forgettable B-rate 80s action drama. However, it distinguishes itself with a clever twist on the alien invasion theme, bolstered by dynamic, quirky performances and a distinct style. Merging elements of police drama with body-snatching horror, The Hidden manages to remain engaging despite its somewhat outlandish premise. The film opens with a frenetic sequence, a violent robbery followed by a high-speed car chase. The robber, Jack DeVries, is shot multiple times while maneuvering his Ferrari through a police blockade. Unlike typical criminals, Jack's lack of reaction to such extreme circumstances hints at something unusual about him. Remarkably, he survives his injuries long enough to reach the ICU. There, in a bizarre twist, he expels a squid-looking spider-like parasite into another patient's mouth before succumbing to his wounds. Central to the story are Detective Thomas Beck and FBI agent Lloyd Gallagher, portrayed by Michael Nouri, the heartthrob from Flashdance, and Kyle MacLachlan, the iconic actor from Twin Peaks. Beck is a by-the-book detective who staunchly adheres to hard evidence and strict police procedures. In contrast, Gallagher brings a mysterious intuition to their partnership. He possesses an uncanny ability to predict the parasite's movements and its next actions. Gallagher's quirky behavior fosters an intriguing and often humorous dynamic with Beck, punctuated by gags that only work because of McLaughlin's adeptness at playing a kooky yet serious oddball. As the parasite moves through various hosts, a stripper, a dog, a senator, it uses their bodies to indulge in violent and pleasure-seeking behavior. Driven by these primal urges, it pursues its desires, stopping at nothing to satisfy its cravings. The setting of Los Angeles during the late 1980s is more than just a backdrop. The neon-lit streets, nightclubs and highways provide the perfect playground for the aliens' wild escapades. The aliens' insatiable craving for excess captures the decade's own obsession with more violence, more pleasure, more everything. In the end, The Hidden stands out as a cult classic. It's a film that, by all accounts, should have been just another campy B-movie horror sci-fi mashup. Yet, it surpasses these expectations, particularly through Kyle MacLachlan's stellar performance. By skillfully blending elements of police drama, body-snatching horror, and subtle humor, The Hidden not only captivates, but also cements its legacy as a distinctive and compelling watch for science fiction fans and enthusiasts of 80s cinema.
Holy sheep shit!
Repo Man is a cinematic oddity that has earned its place as a beloved cult classic, despite its initial lukewarm reception upon release in 1984. This sci-fi comedy is a satirical masterpiece that takes aim at the consumerism and conservatism of Reagan-era America, all while delivering a healthy dose of punk rock attitude. The movie follows Otto, a young punk played by Emilio Estevez, who finds himself adrift after losing his job at a supermarket. His fortunes change when he meets Bud, a seasoned repo man portrayed by the inimitable Harry Dean Stanton. Bud takes Otto under his wing and introduces him to the high-stakes world of car repossession, where the repo men are always one step ahead of the law. As Otto learns the ropes of his new profession, he becomes embroiled in a bizarre mystery surrounding a 1964 Chevy Malibu. Rumor has it that the car contains radioactive aliens in its trunk, and everyone from the repo men to government agents are hot on its trail. It's a plotline that could only exist in the wacky world of Repo Man. The film is a wild ride from start to finish, with a cast of eccentric characters that are as memorable as they are bizarre. Bud is the grizzled veteran who's seen it all. Light is his quick-witted partner in crime, and the supporting cast is filled with misfits and oddballs that add to the movie's anarchic spirit. But Repo Man isn't just a collection of wacky characters and absurd situations. It's also a biting satire that takes on everything from UFO mania to the soul-crushing nature of minimum wage jobs. The movie's soundtrack is also a key component of its enduring appeal, featuring tracks from punk and hardcore legends like Black Flag, Suicidal Tendencies, and Iggy Pop. The music is the perfect complement to the movie's anti-establishment ethos. It's a soundtrack that's as rebellious and uncompromising as the film itself. Upon its initial release, Repo Man was largely dismissed by mainstream audiences and critics alike. It was a box office flop that seemed destined to fade into obscurity. But over time, the movie found its audience on cable TV and home video, where its quirky humor and countercultural spirit struck a chord with viewers who were looking for something different. Today, Repo Man is celebrated as a cult classic that was ahead of its time. Its satirical take on consumerism and conformity feels just as relevant today as it did in 1984, and its subversive edge continues to inspire new generations of filmmakers and movie lovers.
Oh, let him go.
crash landing onto screens in 1985, Terry Gilliam's Brazil fused retro-futuristic whimsy with Orwellian dread, carving a niche in the annals of cult cinema. This delightfully twisted satire takes a massive buzzsaw to bureaucracy, technocracy, and humanity's overwhelming reliance on comically malfunctioning machines. At the heart of the chaos is Jonathan Pryce as Sam Lowry, a meek cog in an oppressive government regime who finds escape in heroic daydreams of rescuing the damsel from his fantasies. But when a literal bug causes a teleprinter mishap that results in the wrongful death of Mr. Buttle, Sam's mundane life collides with his imagination after meeting the dead man's feisty truck-driving neighbor Jill, played by Kim Greist. Cue a spiraling vortex of darkly comedic mayhem as Sam's quest to make things right drags him down a rabbit hole of bureaucratic buffoonery. Along this descent, he crosses paths with a motley crew, including Michael Palin as a comically torturous old friend and Robert De Niro as an outrageous heating engineer living life as a free-spirited rebel. While the plot gets as deliriously tangled as the ductwork decorating the film's dystopian sets, it's Gilliam's wildly imaginative visuals that transform Brazil into a true mind-bender. Drawing inspiration from sources like film noir, German expressionism, and whimsical illustrations, the movie basks in a retro-futuristic aesthetic that makes this oppressive world somehow strangely enchanting. You don't want to live there, but you might want to visit on holiday, or maybe that's just me. Anyways, initially a box office failure, Brazil was considered too arty for mainstream American audiences. Ironically, its cult status largely stemmed from editing room conflicts. The notorious Battle of Brazil, a term coined by author Jack Matthews, highlighted these tensions. It involved a heated standoff between Gilliam and Universal's Sid Sheinberg over the film's final cut. In response, a grassroots campaign organized guerrilla screenings, which propelled the superior, arty original version to wide release, rescuing it from obscurity. Decades later, Brazil is celebrated as one of the best British films of all time, lauded for its eerily prescient social commentary on dehumanization and totalitarian control. Though the narrative becomes complex, it is the film's bold resistance to creative oppression that solidifies its legacy as an 80s cult legend, transforming from commercial misfire to disturbingly visionary masterwork. Today, Brazil's influence reaches wide, from Tim Burton's Batman to films like Delicatessen and The City of Lost Children. It even resonates in newer movies, like Jupiter Ascending and Star Wars The Last Jedi, although perhaps we'd rather forget those.
Replicants are like any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, it's not my problem.
May I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Have you ever retired a human by mistake?
No.
As I compiled my list, including Blade Runner gave me pause. Although long revered as a cult icon, its significant cultural impact over the decades since its release has transformed it from a niche gem into a universally recognized classic. Yet, the more I thought about it, the more I realized you simply can't have a list without it, as it is practically synonymous with the term cult classic. Alongside Star Wars, Blade Runner was one of the first films to truly master its world building. But unlike Star Wars, which at times leaned too far into the fantastical, the setting and characters of Blade Runner felt gritty and real. You could almost feel the rain, taste the food, and smell the smog. Here, the city itself acts as a character, adding a sense of foreboding and shaping our perception of the interactions between Deckard and the replicants. Let's rewind. The film presents a bleak future where bioengineered beings called replicants are relegated to an exploited underclass, and yet, beneath its cyberpunk veneer, Blade Runner centers on a widely acknowledged theme, essentially asking, what does it mean to be human? The film explores this question through external markers, such as memories and creativity. It implies that what makes us human is not just our biology, but the experiences, relationships, and emotions that shape our identities and give our lives meaning. Ridley Scott weaves these existential threads through his protagonist, Rick Deckard, a former police officer reluctantly reactivated as, you guessed it, a Blade Runner, tasked with tracking down and executing rogue replicants. Deckard's return to his former role not only drags him back into the fray, but also prompts a deep exploration of what it means to be human, highlighted in his intense interactions with the replicants he pursues, particularly Rachel, an artificial being unaware of her own synthetic nature. This is most clearly portrayed in Roy Batty's transformation from a desperate fugitive to a contemplative philosopher who questions the value and transient nature of his manufactured existence. His Tears in Rain soliloquy not only underscores the replicants' quest for meaning, but also challenges the very notion of the life they have been denied. We see this further in Roy's confrontation with his creator, Eldon Tyrell. As tensions escalate, Roy grapples with the inherent limitations of his design. He delivers a desperate plea for more life, which Tyrell dismisses. In a moment, both tender and unsettling, Roy kisses Tyrell before crushing his skull in a fit of rage and despair. And Tyrell's hubristic demise reveals the tangled philosophical knot at the heart of the film. What is the value of life that can be easily created and just as easily extinguished? What moral responsibilities do creators have toward their creations? These and other questions, along with Vangelis's haunting score and the film's pioneering visual style, are why Blade Runner has woven its DNA into the very fabric of popular culture, cementing its place as the definitive cult classic.